With the 2025 NFL season right around the corner and many camps being well underway right now, I thought I'd come on here and talk about the upcoming season in which NFL players have something to prove this season. Now, some of these players on this list have more to prove than others, and some have big accomplishments that they have an opportunity to achieve going into this next season. And there's also going to be people on this list that are in more so put up or shut up type seasons. Seasons where they have to show what they can do, how to improve and get better compared to what they've been the past few seasons in their career. And guys that need to show well off improvement going into this upcoming season. Let's get into it. Now, the most obvious player that needs to be on this list is a player and quarterback who just got signed about a week and a half ago and is basically at the end of his career in the last hurrah of winning a championship, and that's Aaron Rodgers, man. What can be said that hasn't already been stated about Aaron Rodgers when it comes to being good or bad? From being possibly arguably the most talented thrower of football who's ever stepped foot on the NFL gridiron, to having a lot of behavioral issues and personality traits off the field that's, caused a lot of issues within team concepts and team dynamics. Now, that's not to say I thought he was terrible the past few seasons. I thought he did okay based off of the circumstances and the conditions that he was placed under when he came to play for the New York Jets. It was a moribund franchise that really haven't done anything in over a decade. So I give him a little bit of a pass when it comes to that. But he's entering a whole new world and a whole new can of worms when it comes to playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward. This is basically a put up or shut up type year for damn near the whole team. They're all in. And the fact that they just traded for Jalen Ramsey, an all-pro level corner, along with signing Jonnu Smith from Miami. And considering the fact that Jonnu Smith was actually a really good tight end for the Miami Dolphins last year, was very productive, there's really no excuse. And the fact that you got DK Metcalf, who's replacing a head case and just idiot and George Pickens, in my opinion, who's really not proven to be a number one receiver DK has, there's really no excuse going forward. So we'll see. It's basically Super Bowl bust. We all understand that going forward. So we'll see what happens. Do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year? No. But it will be fun and interesting to watch to see what transpires going forward. Now, pivoting to the defensive side of the ball, we got Zack Allen, the impressive defensive end for the Denver Broncos, who had his best season to date as a pro last year and is really coming into his own, setting career best across the board. Now, there's obviously a reason for him to be on this list, and it's more so because he's in a contract season. If he can replicate what he did last year, or hell, even eclipse what he did last year while helping that great defense get further in the playoffs this year, he'll definitely be a player due for a hefty pay raise with either the Broncos or somewhere else going forward. Now, moving it along out there in the AFC North, I know a lot of Steelers fans are going to hate this one and despise it. They're probably thinking to themselves, man, F this dude. How could he have one of the greatest players of this era on this list? I get it. And those are all valid points that I agree with. But I want to reiterate, TJ Watt is not on this list based off of performance. One more time, he's not on this list based off of performance. It's more so based off of the current contract situation he's in. Based off of performance, he's worth every penny that Myles Garrett gets and even more. But TJ Watt has to ask himself the most important question. Should I break the bank for myself? Or should I take a more team-friendly deal with the likes of Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Ramsey joining the fray? That changes some things. I know winning the championship would mean the world to a player like him, and that's the point of him being on this list. I expect him to have another monster season per usual, but winning a Super Bowl is the only thing left off of his Hall of Fame level resume. That has to matter to him, and I know it does. Now, next up is a guy who had a lot of hype around him going into the 2024 NFL Draft. And out of his own mouth at the end of the season felt like he didn't live up to his own expectations, and that's Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, before somebody jumps in the comment section and calls me a hater, I'm not saying he wasn't good in his rookie season. I thought he played okay based off of his circumstances and based off the expectations placed on him. I was expecting a little bit more, though. But good thing he's only in his second year going into his sophomore season and has a chance to take the next step in being an elite receiver. I think 1,100 yards and a double-digit touchdown season would suffice. How about y'all? Next up, we got the man himself, Mr. Justin Herbert, a supremely talented quarterback who should be mentioned from an athletic standpoint with the other great quarterbacks in the league right now. But there's an obvious reason for why he isn't. He has yet to have any real playoff success, period. Now look, I know everything that's transpired throughout his career has not been all his fault, but you can't ignore the 2 playoff blemishes on his resume so far. In those 2 games, he was pretty bad, having a 2 to 4 touchdown interception ratio with a 60.7 passer rating while barely completing over 50% of his passes. Now I know the Herbert defenders will bring up Brandon Staley and how his teammates didn't show up last year, which are all valid arguments to a degree. But at the end of the day, all the all-time great quarterbacks in this league have been able to have at least some decent to great playoff success so far, regardless of whoever's been the coach or how much help they've had so far. Now, we all understand that Justin Herbert is a franchise-level quarterback. We all understand that. And the Chargers have come through and definitely shown that they're all in on getting Herbert the weapons he needs to work with, from drafting Marion Hampton in the first round to drafting Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss, in the second round. And that's not even including free agency pickups they picked up in terms of Najee Harris, Mekhi Becton, and old reliable Mike Williams. So the Chargers are basically giving him what he needs to work with in terms of the upcoming 2025 NFL season. So that's why I look at it and say the sentiment for me when it comes to Justin Herbert is to finally show some playoff success for a change. You're going to have a lot of talent around you on the offensive side of the ball, so you got to show me. Everybody wants to put him in that top 8 to top 5 range in terms of quarterback play and ranking quarterbacks. But like I said before, he has to show me first. It's truly a put up or shut up type year when it comes to Justin Herbert. I need to see it. Now, heading out there to the NFC West division, I got to talk about Mr. Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is another quarterback who I believe the clock is ticking on starting this season, considering the fact that he's in his 7th season as a starter and has yet to find any real playoff success is quite telling. Now, by his numbers, he stayed pretty consistent so far, and I give him credit, especially the fact that he's been able to return to form so much after his ACL tear a couple years ago. But the proof is in the pudding that he's in the same boat to a certain degree when it comes to him and Justin Herbert. Both barely had much playoff experience, and in the playoff games they have played in, they both were atrocious. But the wildcard game by Murray was absolutely ridiculous. If there was any pivotal game that I thought a quarterback looked like a complete bum in, it was that game. But, like most people in the conversation will say, that was years ago, and I agree. But the overall point of him being on this list is to finally show some great impact as a quarterback. It's a deep playoff run or bust when it comes to him, in my opinion. So we'll see what he can do. Moving back on the defensive side of the ball, we got Mr. Micah Parsons. Now, Micah Parsons is basically on this list the same reason why Zack Allen is on this list. Contract situation. Now, Micah is up for an extension already, and the fact that he's already had Pro Bowl seasons every year of his career, along with double-digit sack seasons every year of his career, it's pretty much safe to assume that he's pretty much earned his money so far. Now, in my opinion, the statement that he truly needs to prove is to go out there and win his first Defensive Player of the Year award and helping keeping his team above water this season. Not so much focus on what you can do off the field in terms of your podcasting and things like that, but focus on making sure your team is successful, especially on the defensive side of the ball where they're really going to need help. He needs to go out there and possibly have the best season of his career to help his team make the playoffs again this year. So let's see if he can do it. Now, moving on, we go out there to the NFC North Division with y'all's favorite quarterback to put on a pedestal, and that's Jordan Love. Now, Jordan Love, I actually like him. He has actually had some good seasons so far in his NFL career. With all the hoopla that's been placed on him since Aaron Rodgers has left, has put him in a very interesting position. By drafting a stud like Matthew Golden out of Texas, who shows a lot of promise as a receiver, along with a big receiver in Savion Williams out of TCU, combining with the other current roster of receivers in Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs, there's really no excuse for him in terms of the offside of the ball. Can't run with the narrative that you don't have weapons or your weapons aren't that good or you don't have anything to work with. The Packers have basically done you a favor by giving you all of this talent to put around you, and there's basically no more excuses left to be made. They made it very clear that you're the starting franchise quarterback, and it's now time for him to return the favor and show why they moved on from Aaron Rodgers in the first place and had faith in him. Time for him to take that next step in evolution as a quarterback, and that starts, in my opinion, by winning the NFC North Division and finally making it to a conference championship game this season. How many times are we going to have the same questions about Lamar Jackson? I understand that Raven fans are going to groan about him being on this list for obvious reasons. He had an MVP caliber season. He was the best quarterback all year. It wasn't his fault that Mark Andrews can't catch. You know, that whole spew. But it's just another elite year wasted down the drain that makes fans and critics wonder, is this guy ever going to win a championship or at least get to a Super Bowl? And with the addition of all-pro corner Jair Alexander added to already stacked defense on paper, there's literally no excuses left. I love Lamar, but it is just basically time. If he wants to go down as a first ballot Hall of Famer, he's got to win a Super Bowl, man. Anything other than this come this season to me will be considered a colossal disappointment. Just how it is. Now, the last guy that I have in my mind that needs to be on this list that has something to prove this season is pretty much somebody who a lot of people think maybe shouldn't be on this list because of his accomplishments and his accolades, everything he's accomplished in such a short amount of time. But I believe based off what I've seen last season and the season previous to that, needs to be on this list, and that's Patrick Mahomes himself. Patrick Mahomes, what hasn't already been said about him that has never been said before. You know, obviously, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game, obviously. But the past 2 seasons, statistically, he's almost somewhat fallen off a proverbial cliff. He hasn't been the same in terms of his accuracy. He hasn't been the same in terms of his touchdown to interception ratio. He turns the ball over more. He's making mistakes that I would have thought at this point in his career would have been pretty much out of his game, you know. But a lot of, now, whoa, before people lose their mind and get upset, he's a 3-time champion, he's a multiple-time MVP. I get it and I understand it. I'm not hating on him. I love Patrick Mahomes. But at the end of the day, he's got to come out here and remind these fools this season what type of quarterback he is, whether that's winning a Super Bowl, MVP, but putting up great statistical numbers this season. Past 2 seasons, his numbers have not been great. It's very well documented. And now because of that, you have people making assumptions that other great quarterbacks are better than him this season now, or going into the season he's not considered the best or ranked the highest in terms of quarterback rankings. He's got to go out here and remind these fools who he is, remind him how great he truly is. We'll see what he can do. I expect him to have a bounce back statistical season. I don't think he'll win the Super Bowl this year, but we'll see what happens. I'm not hating on him. I'm not doubting him. But for his sake, in terms of this video and the theme of it, he needs to come out there and show these people what he's all about once again. So we'll see what happens. Now, in closing, when it comes to this video, I want to state that there definitely is guys that I left off this list that should possibly be on it, and probably guys that you guys think in the comment section or watching the video think should have been on it. Whether that's Caleb Williams, who I think doesn't need to be on this list yet. I think it's too early. It's only his 2nd year in the league so far. You know, some would even say Travis Kelce, even though he's been established for over a decade, but the past few seasons has not been the best in terms of production. I can understand why some people say he should be on the list. I can see some people that think Josh Allen and some of the other real top-level quarterbacks should be on this list. But in my opinion, the 8 or 9 or 10 that I picked on this list, I think are the most notable, the most suitable. I could have said a few head coaches like Mike Tomlin, for example. He, to me, is on the proverbial hot seat. If he doesn't win with this stacked roster, I don't really know what else to say when it comes to him. Obviously, we all know he's not a terrible coach, but at the end of the day, just being 500, a little bit above 500 is not going to get cut it at some point. So he could have been put on this list as well, but I chose not to. There's a lot of guys, like I said, in terms of honorable mentions, maybe an Adrian Mitchell or Joe Burrow or whoever else that people want to think of that either have shown a lot of ability but have not had the real production in terms of Adrian Mitchell not really being on the field as much last season, or Joe Burrow who's still pounding on that proverbial jumper trying to get to the Super Bowl the same way Lamar and Josh Allen has. It's a lot of guys I could have named that could have been on this list, but I chose who I chose. So maybe going forward, I may make another list going forward about this and add a whole new batch of guys that could be on the list. We'll see what happens. But going into the 2025 season, these are the players I want to see take the next step in terms of their evolution as players, and who, in my opinion, needs to have great breakout seasons. Put up or shut up, I wouldn't say for all of them, but for some of them, they're gonna have a big point to prove going into this next upcoming season. Some to remind people who they are, some to show that they can be team friendly, some to show they can have more production to earn better contracts, etc., etc. But in closing, like I said, we'll see what happens. Thank you guys all for watching, and as always, until we meet again.